Welcome back to another episode of the Outsider Sports Baseball Podcast. Corey, Jason, Ben Mandel, Dylan, Mel, John, Pauline, playoff baseball. All of our teams still in it for the time being. Just for the time being.
Depending when you watch this.
Yes, depending on when you watch this, there's 100% chance that not all of our teams will be in the World Series just because there's 3 teams between the 4 of us. 2 of our teams are playing each other now, though. So let's kind of get right into that because a little bit of battle. Red October versus the Grimace Mets. OMG. Mets have a 2-1 lead. Ben, did you see this coming? How are you feeling right now? Where is the confidence level?
Well, I mean, look, you can't not feel confident. And look, I think even with the way game 1 went, the fact that the Mets kept that at 1-0 till the 8th, you just had to feel good. It feels like the Mets really have been the better team throughout most of this series, in my opinion. My confidence wavered a ton in Game 3 against Milwaukee. I did not feel good going into Game 3 against Milwaukee. I didn't feel good the entire game. But then all of a sudden, I don't know, something just flipped when Lindor worked that walk in the 9th. The confidence came back, knowing that Alonso was going to get a chance with guys on base, even though he had never hit a postseason home run. So that it was just exciting. It's really unlocked the polar bear because he's had a great series. That's another thing you can feel good about. A couple of home runs from Pete is a good way to go.
Would he be your player of the series against Milwaukee?
Against Milwaukee, I don't know. It's tough because I honestly really just want to give it to the starting pitchers specifically. Against Milwaukee, the fact that they were able to give them length in those games was huge because with the amount of games they played and the days that they had to play them, they really weren't set up for success. And the starting pitchers just have been fantastic. Now, moving on, though, to what's current in this 2-1 lead that they have against Philadelphia, it's Mark Vientos. Mark Vientos is by far and away the MVP with how he's played. He is hitting the cover off the ball. A lot of Philly fans that I know are telling me that they had no idea who Mark Vientos even was. And now they're scared to death of him. They're calling him Baby Ruth. I mean, it's exciting as a Mets fan. The confidence is very high. And, you know, look, you get a chance to close it out at home. I think that's all you can really hope for. And for a first postseason series against a division rival like the Phillies, as evenly matched, I don't know if you guys saw the numbers before today's game. The last 100 games between the Mets and Phillies, the teams were 50-50. So let's take it to the last 1,000 games. What are their records? Again, this is excluding Game 3.
500 and 500?
500 and 500. Exact. Dead even. So, you know, look, it's amazing these teams never played in the postseason to this point. But it really is made for a fantastic series. Back and forth, Game 1 and 2. In Game 3, I mean, just Manaea shoved, dedicating the game to his aunt, who we found out after the game passed away. That's where his gesture when he came out of the game was. It was saluting his aunt. And I mean, talk about a guy who's completely flipped the script on his postseason career through this playoff. With Game 2 performance against Milwaukee, fantastic. Left the game, should have won it. And then, I mean, 7+ fantastic innings against a really good Philly lineup that you saw destroy the Mets after Severino tired and ended up leaving the game yesterday in Game 2.
Now, flipping that over to John, what's gone wrong for the Phillies to be down to the Mets? I know you weren't super confident coming into it because
I literally texted you guys.
I
texted you guys. I couldn't express how much I didn't want the Phillies having to play the Mets in the playoffs.
What's gone wrong for the Phillies? Because they've been...
Well, Corey, I don't want to cut you off, but John, I have to ask you, where were your emotions in that 9th inning against the Brewers? I'm sure you had your eyes on that in Game 3. What were you thinking?
I thought it was over. I thought the Mets were done. Like I was excited that
I
they
was
were
gonna
going to have to play.
I was gonna say, did your heart just sink when
Well, when I looked up, I would because
that home
I
run?
don't think I wasn't watching the game, but I saw like thing on my phone, and I'm like, I'm like, well, they won, and I'm like, well, that's it. Like this is it.
Sorry, Corey.
No, you're good. That's a good question. Like we're watching these games. We don't have a skin in it technically, but now Mets are playing the Phillies. John's confidence wasn't high to play the Mets. Why are the Phillies down 2-1? What isn't to the same level that the Phillies have had the last few years?
I mean, honestly, it's just the fact I think this year is like they got hot at the beginning of the year instead of the end of the year. They used it all up on the end, like at the start of the season, and then like I mean, you saw it. I mean, even after like that London trip, they were barely playing 500 baseball, and then like after the All-Star break, I mean, they were not good for a while, and then like they're getting good here and there, but it's just like
Well,
they
Philly
were
was
back to
on
how they were at
pace.
the start of the
People were
season.
talking about them winning 110 games this year. So for them to
Yeah,
not break 100, yeah, it really does show the second half they had.
they just fell off completely. I mean, they stopped hitting, pitching. They struggled pitching. I mean, Suarez just was not the same as he was before the injury. I mean, Nola is just not the same pitcher he was like dominant like the past few years. I don't think he's been the same since the pitch clock. I mean, Wheeler even hit a rough patch. I mean, in the plus right now, I mean, their relief pitching is completely collapsing. I mean, that first game, I mean, Wheeler pitched a great game, and then like Hoffman collapsed, Strom collapsed, and it's like those are their two best relief pitchers, and they just like back to
Well,
back like
Strom
eighth inning.
collapsed in game 1 and 2.
Yeah, he did. He did in two. Yeah, he gave up the 2-run homer to Vientos, right?
Which, in Strom's defense, the pitch was at his chin.
So I mean,
But I
but
mean, wow.
it's tough. I mean, it's just like their relief pitching's imploding with even their best relievers. I mean, no one's really hitting. I feel like they just not hitting. I mean, you have some big hits here and there, but it's like I feel like they're trying to do too much. Like they're always trying to hit that home run, trying to kill it every time they come up, and it's just they don't seem like they're trying to get on base. It seems like they're trying to score a run every time they're up at bat instead of just worrying about getting on base. It's just I don't know. Like they're trying too hard.
What did you think of the decision to bench Bohm in game 2?
I don't. I
Desperate.
mean,
Desperate.
I feel like this is a thing where it's like they're kind of reacting from last season when they were playing the Diamondbacks and like everyone he didn't change the lineup for the last 2 games. I think this is kind of like they're like, oh, we're doing bad. I gotta maybe mix it up now. So,
As somebody who hate watches Alec Bohm, fantastic decision. The
why do you
one
hate
game
Alec Bohm so
the
much?
one game the Phillies won, Alec Bohm wasn't in the lineup. Remember that.
Yeah, but that's not true, though.
No,
Because Alec
no.
Bohm came into the lineup when they started coming back.
Sosa had 2 at bats, and then Bohm came
They
in.
just can't start
had
with him
2
out there. He
at-bats.
brings bad energy, bad mojo to the team.
What do you have against Alec Bohm?
That's crazy. I think Bohm's a good baseball player.
Does Dylan hate Alec Bohm more than Ben hates Jerks? I mean, what do you think it is?
Look, hey, look, I don't think Profar is as. I don't hate Jerks and Profar the way that Dylan hate watches Alec Bohm. I don't root for Profar to fail. I just don't think he's as good as he is. Like
I actively root for Alec Bohm to fail. That is correct.
I don't. Yeah, no, but John, I think the biggest question now for the Phillies, you're down 2-1. Do you throw Zach Wheeler game 4 anyway on short rest, just because now this is your season?
Oh, see, this is a tough decision because it's like Suarez hasn't been consistent, hasn't been great since coming from the injury. I mean, they said they felt better about him after the week off, and after they did, I think kind of like their own little
they did a simulated game or
like
something.
a simulated game against each other where they picked teams and stuff, and they said they felt more confident after that. But I mean, and it'd be nice if they won today. Then you have Wheeler, pitching, game 5 in Philly. So, and that'd be huge for them because I have a lot of confidence then if they get to game 5 and Wheeler's pitching that they can win that.
but you have to get to game
But,
5.
but like you said, like you have to get there, and it's like how much do you trust? How much do they trust Suarez? I mean, he's been good in the playoffs in the past, but
The thing is, too, the way you're hitting, you can't afford for the Mets to get on Ranger and then be like, "Oh, Wheeler's available at the pen. Let's bring him in now that it's 3-0 New York."
I mean,
yeah, that's a waste. If Wheeler can pitch, Wheeler has to pitch. But that's where the question, I think, is not about how much you trust Ranger Suarez, but do you trust Zach Wheeler on 3 days rest more than Ranger Suarez? Because that's the real question. It's not about if Wheeler can pitch, he's the one you're going with. It doesn't matter if Ranger Suarez has your 100% trust. You still know that Zach Wheeler gives you the best chance to win. It's a matter of, Wheeler was a guy with the Mets who had a huge injury history. The Phillies are a team that even talked about going to a 6-man rotation, and they did for a good chunk of the season. So, Wheeler's not a guy used to going on 3 days rest and probably never expected to have to. It seems like something to me the Phillies wouldn't even think about. But I feel like you have to.
I mean, if you're, like you said, season's on the line here, do you go to it, possibly risk an injury and still end up losing? I mean, it's tough. It's tough.
I think you got to go with your ace. I think that's how it ends. Speaking of the Phillies, though, right now the Phillies, out of the 8 remaining teams, according to DraftKings, have the longest odds to win the World Series now. Yes, they're down 2-1.
Well, and they are the only team currently down 2-1.
2-1, yeah.
But it's the team that's up 2-1 doesn't have the best odds to win the World Series.
It's because that team up 2-1 has to get through the monsters in either LA or San Diego.
So do we want to take a guess at which team has the best odds to win the World Series?
The Yankees, because they're in the playoffs with an AL Central.
The Yankees have the second best odds now to win the World Series.
So, I mean, at that point, I would say it's probably the Dodgers, but I feel
Dodgers
like, especially if it was
fourth.
If they're okay, so then the
Padres at plus 300, Yankees plus 380, Mets plus 500, Dodgers plus 7, Royals plus 8, Tigers plus 9, Guardians plus 9, Phillies plus 1,000 to win the World Series.
I'd like to point out, as we're recording, San Diego is up 6-1 in the second inning.
I
think that's playing some kind of factor.
Yeah, I was trying to wait a little bit till we got into this series, but I don't understand how the Dodgers felt comfortable with Walker Buehler in this game and how they did not have another pitcher ready to go in the second inning when Walker Buehler started running into issues, because this game was 3-1 for a really long time before Tatis just hit that bomb to make it 6-1.
I'm surprised they let Buehler pitch in the playoffs after how bad he's been at the end of the season.
Well, he's picked it up a bit. He's been better, but they really needed to have a short leash for him.
I think we can circle back and blame Ohtani. No playoffs.
He had a good game one.
Man, it's a team sport that you just blame Ohtani for, because he's got no playoff success with the Angels, and he's bringing all that mojo to the Dodgers.
Did you see the graphic?
What mojo did they have before he got there?
They won the COVID World Series.
Exactly. Dave Roberts is the bad juju. But
you think?
Last thing on the Mets Phillies. Yeah, just my one last point on the Mets Phillies. Confidence wise, you feel great. I would like to see if maybe even Senga could throw Game 4 and then have Quintana for Game 5, or even Peterson, with Peterson looking as good as he has lately. Just pitching wise, though, I think if you're the Mets, you've gotten length out of all of your starters so far. They've given you at least 6, and it's all you can really hope for at this point. The bullpen has been good enough. You got to be a little concerned about Diaz, but ultimately, I think the Mets get this done at Citi Field. I think it's now a 5-game losing streak on the road for the Phillies in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken.
Sounds about
something
right.
along those lines. They can't win on the road. They were a 500 team on the road this year to begin with. I think the Mets are just going to get this done in 4.
I like the confidence, Ben. Really do. But let's go to the other side of the NL bracket. We were just talking a little bit about it. Padres are now up in this game on the Dodgers. Series is tied 1-1. Did you guys see what Profar did to Mookie Betts the other day, though.
Yeah.
Mookie Betts hit a ball that was well into the seats.
Fantastic.
Profar robbed him of a home run, but pretended he didn't. Let Mookie run around the bases until he started acting like he caught it. That's the type of psychopath behavior that I love in the postseason, because the Dodgers and Padres don't like each other. That's a real rivalry, and they're just inflaming it now with that. Then on top of it, you have Dave Roberts being a bit of a softie, complaining that Mookie Betts threw a ball at him when Betts was just throwing the ball, to the ball boy or whatever it is to get it out of the infield in between innings. I got no tolerance for something like that, to where Roberts is calling for Machado to be suspended. I think the league should flip the script and suspend Roberts for being a baby.
No. That might actually help. That might help the Dodgers. No.
It honestly would help them. It would. No, look, Roberts is 100% just trying to make a story out of this. Like, no one even brought this up. No one thought anything of this. And then all of a sudden, Dave Roberts is like, he's trying to throw the ball at my head. Dude, shut up. Shut up. I know you see the writing on the wall. You have zero pitching to stop this Padre lineup. You know that your offense isn't going to be able to outscore them with how little pitching you have. And you realize that ultimately you are the problem for this Dodger team. You, Dave Roberts, are the reason why this team will not win a World Series as long as you're the coach.
Yeah, I fashion this series as an old 80s high school movie, and the Dodgers are the preppy jock that wears the polo shirt, and they bully the Padres all movie, the regular season. And then we're at the point in the movie now. Yeah, but they were better than them in the regular season.
Fair enough.
And now we're at the point in the movie now where Daniel LaRusso is about to hit the crane kick, and Fernando Tatis is one pimp job away from sending the Dodgers home crying to their mama.
So at this rate, we're looking at a possible Mets-Padres NLCS, and that kind of brings us back to the last time the Mets were in the playoffs, where they played the Padres in the first ever wild card series, I believe, and the only other wild card series to go 3 games. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ben.
No, that is correct. There have only been 2 series that have gone the distance in the wild card era with this 3-game series to get into the playoffs, and the Mets are the only team to have played in both of those.
So we have kind of an idea based off of, general vibes and momentum, how these series could go. Again, we've said the Phillies, not a great road team. They're facing elimination. The Dodgers, I don't really know what to make of them. They've always been such a great regular season team, but they always seem to lose to any relatively lukewarm to hot team in the postseason, because they don't seem to ever be able to get on a streak in October. So the Padres right now, they're kind of spanking them. The Dodgers have a lot of internal stuff going on too, with Dave Roberts being a baby, and I wonder how much that plays into it.
I mean, you even watch Mookie Betts on that home run that, Profar faked him out on. Did that ooze confidence to you guys? Like, no. Even when he was celebrating, like, he just looked shell-shocked almost. Like he didn't think that he could hit a home run. Like, dude, you got a hanging slider. You put it out. Have a little fun. And it just doesn't look like the Dodgers are having any fun at all. And to be quite honest with you, I don't know if there is any team in baseball that has good enough pitching to stand up to the Padres, except maybe the Philadelphia Phillies, to be quite honest with you.
If they actually remember how to pitch.
I mean, look, Nola had moments. He got hit with the long ball. Obviously, the Padres, they can hit the long ball as good as anybody. But, between Wheeler, Nola, what you can get out of Sanchez, what you can get out of Suarez, like, Sanchez wasn't bad.
No, not
Sanchez
at all.
was not bad at all. I thought Sanchez was great outside of the home run to Vientos and I believe the home run to Alonso. And outside he really did a great job keeping the team in the game, because I thought that could have gotten ugly early and he could have been pulled from that game a lot earlier.
I'm more worried about the relief pitching. For a lot
I
of
was going to say that the bullpen definitely would be my biggest concern with Philly, especially because, look, there's a reason why the Mets are having all of these late inning comebacks. Like, yeah, you know what? They got Devin Williams, who's the best reliever in baseball. And then they turn around and they're hitting the best relievers in this Philly bullpen. It makes as a Mets fan feel good about who, it doesn't matter who you play, but at the same time, like, you're not going to keep up with these Padres hitters if they're putting up 10 runs a game. OMG can only go so far. We'll see how Pitbull can do with it.
I mean, everything anybody's said about the Mets is that they don't have the pitching and their offense is too streaky. That everything seems to be negative about the Mets. They're not good enough, but right now they're the hottest, scrappiest team. And they're doing it through the power of a fast food mascot.
It's a good thing, though.
A Latin pop star song, a viral internet clip sensation in Hawk Tua, and
Kevin James.
we're just getting it done.
Jared Leto.
Yeah, but they're not really as high profile as those three that are really carrying it. Like the main
Grimace. I don't know if
out.
you guys saw the 7 line. The 7 line was plastered with Grimace pictures. Like, they have Grimace all over the 7 line trains going to the station, going to Citi Field. That's awesome. That's just, I mean, in McDonald's, it's just got to be loving all the free advertising.
Best ROI they've ever had on a mascot throwing out a first pitch. That's
seriously.
But
seriously, whoever set that up for them, especially the timing of when it happened, has got to be like a huge raise.
Let's go to the American League to see kind of who could be playing, most likely the Padres or the Mets in the World Series, based on how those series are going.
Look, the Dodgers and the Phillies have won 2 games in a row many times. Even if, the Dodgers aren't able to come back in game 3 here, again, as we said, it's currently top of the 3rd inning. Teoscar Hernandez, I mean, I might be on a bit of a delay from you guys, but Teoscar Hernandez is up with the bases loaded. So, and there's only one out in the inning. I know Michael King is good. He's been great for the Padres so far, but the Dodgers, they're never out of the game either.
He did hit a home run, Teoscar Hernandez, to make it 6-5.
Okay, so I am on a bit of a delay here.
So, I mean, the vibes are shifting now. And I do think that baseball is a vibes-driven game, because when you believe you can, you will. But when you don't think you can, you won't. Now, I know how stupid that sounds, but think about it. When your mindset isn't right, you're not going to be able to be successful. When you're at the plate and you believe you won't get a hit, you won't.
To be quite honest with you, Corey, you know who I thought believed the Mets were going to come back? Those Phillies players on the field. It was like they were just waiting for it in game 2. Each time the Mets struck back after the Phillies tied that game at 3, it was almost as if the pitchers and everybody on the field was just waiting for that next shoe to drop from the Mets.
I mean, LOL Mets is a thing for a reason, right? But it's only a thing because of the past. And the Mets can change the narrative about them and the whole franchise.
Mm-hmm.
But going to the American League, you have the Tigers, the upstart Detroit Tigers versus the Cleveland Guardians. That series is tied 1-1. And we saw in that game the best closer in baseball, Emmanuel Clase, give up a 3-run home run to Parker Meadows to give Detroit that win in Cleveland. Now they're going back to Detroit. Does Detroit actually have a shot? They don't have the pitching, it seems, to really keep up with it. But they're doing it. They were able to knock out the Astros. Can they compete and keep going against Cleveland, or was this kind of like a one-time thing?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that homer was Kerry Carpenter.
Oh, my bad. Kerry Carpenter.
Not Parker Meadows.
Parker Meadows, he made that great catch in the outfield.
Yeah, Detroit is just so scrappy, and they're one of those teams. Like the Mets have the talent, and not to be like that guy, but Detroit is playing above their talent level right now. But this is the team that you talk about where in baseball runs can happen. They kind of remind me of the Diamondbacks last year. Not as great of pitching, but a team that was young and nobody really expected them to make a run. And then all of a sudden they went from wild card to World Series.
Hey, Dylan, I'm just going to say, I said at the beginning of the season that Detroit was a dark horse team and AJ Hinch is a great manager, and that this team loaded with young talent, if they could get something out of the pitching and, Tariq Skubal, I liked him. If they could get someone else behind him, that they would be in good shape. It's amazing that they were sellers at the deadline and still ended up making it in. And look, I think that, to your question, Corey, though, it's a one-time thing. Clase, it's something that hasn't been done off of him. Like, he doesn't give up home runs like this. He doesn't give up multiple runs in innings. I think that if you're Cleveland, game 3, and you have a 1-run lead, you are still going to Clase, without a question. I think that, for the Guardians' sake, the biggest blow here is the fact that you had a chance to beat Tariq Skubal and didn't. I think that's really the biggest hit if you're a Guardians fan or, the Guardians themselves. Like, you were in a position to, be able to win that game that Tariq Skubal pitched. And, for the Tigers, you lose Tariq Skubal game and your series is over. Like, you have to win when Tariq Skubal pitches.
Yeah, when you're able to have a chance to beat another team's best player, their best pitcher, you need to be able to do it.
It's obviously, like the Mets beating Wheeler.
Right. And it doesn't matter if the pitcher pitches well or not. If you're in a position after that pitcher is out of the game to win, you have to. When the Yankees couldn't beat Cole Reagans, that's a bad sign. Cleveland couldn't beat the Tigers after being able to keep the game so close after Tariq Skubal left. That's not a good thing. I think that, one, this might be the most boring LDS game I can remember because neither team is really flashy.
I really thought it was going to be another one like that wild card game in Cleveland a couple years ago against Seattle.
And, I mean, you have J-Ram on Cleveland. Clase, he's a reliever. But there's not really that guy out there that you can really market. J-Ram is a very understated player. The league doesn't really market him. Mm-hmm. Skubal's going to win the Cy Young, but this is just 1 year. He hasn't really been this level at any point in his career outside of some flashes. So there's nobody really to sell the league on. In every other series, you have Ohtani, Betts with the Dodgers. The Mets, you have Alonso. You have Senga, who's very big in Japan.
Lindor.
I was going to get to Lindor.
I thought you were leaving him off. I'm like, dude, come on. Burying the lead.
No. This is the next one I was going to say. Because Lindor, for a long time was the face of baseball back when he was with Cleveland. And then when he first got traded to the Mets, he was massive. And this year's almost been like a resurgence nationally for him because of how well he's played. And then even in, obviously the Phillies have Bryce Harper. And then Schwarber is still a big name. Zach Wheeler is a top flight pitcher. You have these guys, Padres, Machado, Tatis. Michael King's becoming a household name. These guys, yes, Jerks and Profar, of course. Jackson Farrell, one of the great young rookies. So you have all these teams in the National League with stars. And this series, Cleveland-Detroit, has J-Ram, who is a little understated, but outside of that, you don't really have much else.
Stephen Kwan.
Yes, Stephen Kwan, who's had a down year.
Catch but no catch. Was that a catch?
I think it was. I think he got the thumb underneath.
I say it's a catch.
I mean,
I didn't think you could overturn it.
Fair enough. Josh Naylor's another one who could be a star if he took that next step up. Bo Naylor, the Naylor brothers are both very good players. but it's just not an appealing series. But where do we see this series heading? Does Cleveland just take care of business in Detroit and that's that?
Yeah, I think that, Detroit, they're not going to win non-Scooble days. I think that this series would have been over in 3 games. I think now it's going to be over in 4. I think Cleveland's just going to take care of business. They are ultimately the better team. I think that they're going to be able to have the edge with their bullpen and with their starters in games 3 and 4. Detroit doesn't have another starter that they can throw. Like they physically don't. They're going to be going with the bullpen game. And I mean, look, it's AJ Hinch can manage his tail off, but at the end of the day, when you're as outmatched as the Tigers are, it's just there's not much you can do. I think at the end of the day, Detroit didn't really have a playoff team, but they were able to take advantage of a hot streak and Minnesota and Seattle deciding they didn't want to play playoff baseball. Oh, and the Red Sox as well. I won't leave them out of there.
Yeah, I am not ready to write off Detroit. I think that these games are going to look pretty similar to game 2, and it's just going to be a matter of who gets the hits when they need them. And now that Detroit's back at home with home field, and they only really need to win 1 there to obviously go to a game 5, but to get Scooble back on the mound. And if you get Scooble out there in a game 5, things get a little dicey.
Well, and also, too, I mean, you saw how playoff games in Detroit have been for the Lions. This is a playoff-starved city. The Tigers haven't been there in forever. The Red Wings have started a drought of their own after going on that crazy streak they had of making the playoffs. And, I mean, yeah, the Lions are good, but, football only comes once a week, so these fans in Detroit, they're definitely going to be ready to go. As much as I like Detroit as a young team, they're not ready yet. It's not going to be like the Diamondbacks last year or the Phillies the year before. We're not going to see this out of the American League, and usually we don't because the American League is typically very top-heavy.
Now going to that other matchup, the Royals-Yankees, you have 3 AL Central teams. Who would have thought in this round? That series is tied 1-1. I heard, somebody told me today that the Yankees are basically baseball's version of Cowboys. Every year it's our year, and then it just isn't.
Your fans certainly act the same.
I'll ignore that.
I find Yankees fans a lot.
The sky is always falling. You guys, it's always your year. How does that sound, Corey?
I mean, right now the sky is falling and falling and falling.
Yeah, that's how the Cowboys are after each loss, which is how the Yankees are after every loss. Not just in the playoffs, in the regular season too. Like you do this to me all year.
Expectations.
Yeah, Cowboys fans.
Nah, they don't know nothing. Cowboy fans, they're not real fans.
Neither are Yankees fans.
Ouch.
Whoa.
Ouch.
Real New Yorkers are Mets fans.
Is this the part of the show where I have to convince Corey why the team that's clearly the most talented roster in the AL and is tied 1-1 in a series where they've been a good road team all year and they clearly have more firepower than Kansas City in general? And if you go based on the numbers of their hits, they technically should be 2-0 just based on how hard they've hit the ball. The luck just didn't fall their way in game 2.
I was going to say Jazz hit the nail on the head there. He wasn't wrong.
Yes, please start this convincing. I'm ready to
I mean, like everything I just said, the Yankees are the better team, and no disrespect to Kansas City, but it's not exactly seeing ghosts going to play there. And the Royals won the game they needed to win. Their ace was on the mound, and the Yankees struggle against lefty starters. If the Royals had lost that game, even if it was game 1 that Reagan's pitched, they're cooked. They had to win with Reagan's on the mound. Lugo, we'll see. I think that Judge will perform better on the road. I think there is something to the playoff lights being bright for him, especially in the Bronx. But if there's something that could save that, it's a trip to Kansas City.
Look, I also want to add that Reagan's pitching game 2 instead of game 1 makes a huge difference. I know that they're still going to sprinkle in 2 off days in between, so he's still going to get 4 days rest for a potential game 5. But that could be, massive for Kansas City, that extra 2 days of rest he could have gotten if he was able to pitch game 1. I think that, for the Yankees' sake, you got to feel good about where you sit. You're going to Kansas City. I know you would have loved to go there with a 2-0 lead. Guess what? Nobody in the postseason this year has a 2-0 lead. There's a lot of parity. While the AL is very top-heavy compared to the National League, I think that, at the end of the day, Kansas City, they're a solid team. The Yankees are a deeper team. I think that, Stanton, obviously him being hobbled, it's tough to watch. But at the end of the day, you really got to feel good about the fact that the Yankees are still going to have the pitching edge, in my opinion. They're still going to have the bullpen edge. And I think that, even the end of game 2, it's a nice little confidence boost to be able to go and put one out on Ursa, to get to their closer, force their closer into the game, and then get to them. Show that, hey, we're going to hit you. So that's definitely a lot more positives, I think, than negatives if you're on the Yankee side. Like, the Kansas City fans aren't going back to Kansas City feeling great about this.
I don't know.
Both
Bobby
teams
Witt
have gotten to the other's bullpen. And, the Yankees, I would say, are a better hitting team. So getting more looks at the bullpen, I think, favors them.
That's true. Bobby Witt, though, does have like a 1.5 OPS at home. He's got like ridiculous home numbers, and he's been quiet too to start this series, just as quiet.
What's he, 0 for 10?
If not more than Judge. I believe he doesn't have a hit yet.
No, he doesn't have a hit. The 2 MVP is really battling it out. Bob Costas is just pissing me off, man. This guy called Bobby Witt Patrick Mahomes, and I lost my freaking mind. As this guy's 0 for 8 in the series, he's like, this is Patrick Mahomes. And I'm like, dude, shut up.
It's because Patrick Mahomes owns part of the team.
I think he meant Patrick Mahomes Sr. at that point.
Yeah, it seems like more of a Bob Costas reference, if you were being honest.
Bob Costas is the worst.
TBS turning down the crowd noise and turning up Bob Costas so people couldn't hear the crowd get loud. It's just ridiculous.
It's a little weird. It's funny, the difference between like watching a game on ESPN and then TBS, because ESPN jacks up their crowd noise. But you watch a game on ESPN, it feels like you're physically in the stadium if you have surround sound.
If I could mute just the commentators and still hear the stadium, that would be done.
I think having national broadcasters do the postseason is not a good idea.
I think you should have a national broadcast, but the home team's broadcast is who broadcasts on the network.
Or just have both home teams' broadcasters call the games so the home team fans can listen, and then you can broadcast them both nationally and let people pick and choose.
And there's no point in paying 2 people at that point. You just have your national broadcast. Let, the games in San Diego are called by the San Diego team. The games in Los Angeles are called by the Dodgers team. The games in New York are called by the Yankees team. The games in Kansas City are called by the Royals team. Keeps it easy. There's no traveling. And you know what? There's literally no fighting.
Yeah.
And not to mention the fact, you get some of these guys. I don't want to eliminate broadcasting jobs as someone who wants to go into broadcasting, but it also provides more excitement for the local teams, because as the team is successful and goes further, you get more work and more national attention.
So how do we feel about this Yankee Royals series going into game 3? Clark Schmidt, Seth Lugo, game 4, likely a repeat of game 1 with Cole, and then a possible game 5 with a Rodon Reagan's rematch. How are we feeling? I know Dylan and how he feels. He feels, the confidence is there, but Ben, John, looking from the other side of the bracket, how does it look?
I think the Yankees are right where they want to be. I think that, obviously 2-0 would have been perfect, but, You got to win. Reagan's pitched. He won. He did what he was supposed to do, and he did what the Royals needed him to do. I think, it's a lot like looking at the Mets-Phillies matchup in Game 2. Yeah, it would have been great for the Mets to come home up 2-0, but you were tied 1-1, and, between Wheeler and Sanchez, you were able to get one win out of those games. I think that, for the Yankees' sake, you were able to get a win. You're not a bad road team. I don't think you're concerned about home field advantage, especially when it comes to Kansas City. It's a team that, they haven't had a playoff game since, was it 2015? So yeah, it'll be a hungry crowd and everything, but it's not like Kansas City's going out there and scaring the piss out of you. Judge has had success in the postseason in smaller markets like Cleveland. He's had some big hits there. And, look, I think at the end of the day, the Yankees are the better team, and I think that's what you have to feel best about.
Yeah, I do as well want to say that the Yankees were a better road team than home team this year. 44-37 at home, 50-31 on the road.
Yeah, no, you're right. I just watching that game after watching Rodon pitch 3 amazing innings. I know we were texting about it, how great it was. Then to just implode like that. And then the Yankees offense leaving so many.
They need to set the tone. You can't start off both games, Gleyber Soto on no outs and Judge not at least put a ball in play. That is where I am 1,000% behind the Aaron Judge criticism. I don't think he's the worst player in baseball, and he drew the walk and he had a hit in Game 2, but those tone-setting moments, you have to at least just put the ball in play and advance the runner, or even if it's a double play, at least you got a guy on third ready to score if Wells can come up and get a hit, and he's been fine. But a strikeout there is just a killer coming from your MVP.
I mean, when the Royals' best pitcher gives up a leadoff walk in 4 of the first 5 innings, and you can scratch off 1 run, and that's it, that's embarrassing.
Well, that's a testament to lineup depth as well. And look, between Judge and Soto, those two guys are going to get walked a lot just because of who's behind them. You need to have a bit of depth. I know, you've talked about that, Corey, but at the end of the day, I actually want Judge to stop being so selective. I think Judge needs to, just if he can find anything that he can put into play sometimes, he needs to take a hit. He needs to be less like Joey Votto in that sense in taking the walks.
Yeah, he looks like he's
more like a Vlad Guerrero.
I think he's thinking too much up there.
I think
he's not just playing his game.
I think that's what it is. I don't want him to change his approach because his approach is what made him a .330 hitter with 58 home runs, with an insane amount of walks. I don't think changing that in the postseason is a smart idea.
Having great statistics may not always win you.
No, but it's
it's timely. No, it's timely hitting in big spots and coming up with hits when your team needs hits.
If you got a guy on Ben, you don't change from being a selective hitter to being an aggressive hitter at the drop of a dime.
I'm not telling him to go out there and swing at everything. I'm saying be less. No, I'm saying be less selective. If you see a pitch, even if it's a little bit on the outside corner, but hey, I could dump that ball into left field, and you've got a runner on second base, or I could dump that ball to right field rather if you're a Judge, and you have a runner on second base, nobody on first. They're going to try to walk you. You get a slider diving off the outside of the plate. You go with it to right field and drive in a run.
But he does do that. The issue is he's missing those. He's swinging at those. He's missing balls in the zone that he would normally hit. And I think that's the main issue with Judge is not the approach, not the over-selectiveness. He's literally just missing pitches. This is reminiscent of what we saw in April where he just wasn't playing well. It's not that he's being too selective and taking those pitches and waiting for one to hit for a home run. He's swinging at that pitch that he can dump off into right field with runners on. He's just missing it, and that's the issue.
Yeah, that's your MVP, buddy.
I know, and that's what's so frustrating is seeing him have these approaches. The Yankees have been taking great at bats. Right. Dylan, you agree? Like the at bats?
Yeah, we've been texting about it, and they have worked starters out of the game. That's why they have such a good look at the Royals bullpen already, because even though Reagan's was good, he was up out of there by the end of the 4th inning because they just ran up his pitch count. They've been taking good at bats. I just think it's a matter of performing. I think when you're Aaron Judge and you've had it twice now, opportunities to set the tone for the game, it doesn't need to be a 3-run shot, just next man up past the baton even, but runners on first and second, no outs, to come away with nothing both times to start the game, that's inexcusable if you're the Yankees.
Guys, the ALDS will be and NLDS will be over by the next time we speak. What are our predictions now for the World Series and that winner? Because I know for me, I had the Astros winning it all, and now they're out. So I feel like, do we want to stick with some of our predictions, or do we want to change it?
Hey, all of mine are still in play, so I wanna ride with it here.
So you're going Mets over Yankees, Ben?
Correct. Mets over Yankees in the World Series.
I think I'm going to do John's Phillies a favor here and move off of them, because I think that's like going to reverse jinx things, but I think I'm going to go Yankees over Padres now.
You're such a brew, dude. You're just like brew. Flipping. Flipping.
No volume there, John.
Oh, my mic. I'm sticking with the Phillies winning everything like I did at the start of the season.
10 toes down, John. I love it.
I'm sticking with it. Instead of having them beating the Orioles, I have them beating the Yankees, though.
I'm sticking to my pick, but I'm just saying, if the Padres get there, I'm also right.
No, you're just like Chris Broussard, dude. You are the same person.
Chris Broussard makes a lot of sense when I watch First Things First.
I'm going to stick with my National League team being the Mets. I think they are the team of destiny right now.
Oh, you're switching off the Astros?
I mean, sometimes it forces my hand.
In all fairness, I think the fix job might have been on, because they announced the Pitbull remix of OMG to release this Friday.
Yeah.
And as it stands, the Mets they can't be eliminated before Friday when that releases. So I think the MLB fix was on against the Brewers to make sure that the Mets were still playing baseball come this Friday.
But on the American League side, now that the Astros are out, a large part of me really wants to have a 2015 rematch as my prediction. But I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. I won't do it just because I don't believe in it. But I do think that the Mets will be facing the Cleveland Guardians in the World Series.
You coward. I knew it.
Such a loser, dude.
You've had 2 opportunities to pick your team, and you've picked against them.
Who has the best odds in his league?
And you even sprinkled the team that they're facing and then picked another one of the teams that they could potentially face. You kind of planted flags on 2 AL teams there, and not one of them was yours.
Deep down, I want them to win, but even with all this convincing...
This is just so you could victory lap no matter what, unless it's the Tigers. I'm convinced.
No, I'm convinced that it's strictly a reverse jinx. He's trying to do the reverse jinx. This is how Corey operates.
If the Mets win the World Series, I will make a lot of money. So I would rather lose that money and see the Yankees win. I'm going to leave it at that. I'd rather lose my future bets for the Yankees to win it all.
Real Yankee fans like me only have futures on the Yankees to win the World Series.
Yeah, but I didn't like the Yankees odds.
I took them at the beginning. At the beginning of the season, I got them at 10-1.
Okay. I had the Mets back in August, right before that resurgence, but the OMG, oh my grimace Mets are doing a lot of stuff in the league right now.
Wait, we picked who's going to be there. Who's going to win?
Oh.
I said Yankees over Padres.
Yeah, I thought we all said.
Yeah. Well, I stuck with mine. Mets over Yankees. John, you're sticking with Phillies winning it all?
Yeah, I said yeah. Phillies
All
over.
right, all
Yeah,
right.
Phillies.
That's my bad, Corey.
Oh yeah, and then the Mets for me, switching them with the Astros.
Whoop, whoop.
But
Why
that'll
would
do
you
it
not
here
stick with an American League team?
because I'm going to stick with the team I thought was going to make it already.
Because he's a loser.
OMG. Can't forget the Bev.
Oh my god. I know the words. I'm just not speaking Spanish today.
Today.
Take us home, Corey.
I mean, as Ben would say, adios, signing off for the Absolute Sports Baseball Podcast. Corey Jason, Ben Mandel, Dylan Mel, John Pauline, all really hoping our teams make it to the next round and that we're able to talk again, supporting our own guys. But that'll do it here. Keep tuning in.